was reckoning. You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, 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 I was born in it.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
And welcome to the Macabre Podcast universe. This is the podcast that exists. Why?
To prove people wrong when they say that sequels are never better than the originals.
And we're covering the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy after previously covering all the 80s and 90s Batman movies.
Mm-hmm.
And today we are joined by Pat and Clayton from a wonderful podcast that I listen to every week to get the breakdown. It is My Sports, the B.O. Boys. Welcome, Pat and Clayton.
Hey, what's going on, guys? B.O. Boys here.
How's it going? Yeah,
They are
what's up?
hijacking the show today. That was confirmed previously when they're just in control of the Zoom call and everything.
Somehow we lost our host privileges. I don't know how.
Yeah, we will possibly sell you the audio for this recording later today. But
We would appreciate it. Yeah.
Cool.
We'll see how this goes.
and we only take Juggalo Bitcoin, so we take Juggalo Bitcoin if you guys own that.
We'll have to figure something out.
Goods and services. Maybe we'll send you a care package of some sort. How about that?
Nice.
We'll see.
So, this movie came out in 2012, July 20th, and I want to tell you about my experience seeing this
You
for
and
the
I were
first
at
time.
the same showing.
We were at the same showing, and it was midnight.
Yep.
And
This was my first midnight movie.
Yes. And it was a wild ride. I had been like, I went to our local theater and I was like, when I heard the tickets were on sale, I was like, gotta get there, gotta be there. Get the tickets. A couple of our friends, one dressed up as Batman, Eric
Ooh.
Morris,
Oh.
and Jordan Brown dressed up as Bane, and we staged a fight outside of Cinemark.
Yeah.
And they were pretty good costumes. And I had a bat signal, and I waved it in the sky to alert Batman that Bane was coming. It was very fun.
So, did you have the Joker fight Bane? Is that who was fighting?
No, it was Batman. It was Batman and Bane.
fought Bane. Okay.
Yes,
Because I would say, I thought I was confused because I'm like, if I went to go see this opening weekend and I saw Joker fighting Bane, I would be like, this is not the movie I was expecting.
No. And we did find out later that someone in that line saw this Bane person walking toward the line in an intense way.
Yeah.
And they started going for their pepper spray.
Really?
And they were about to pepper spray our friend. But then someone was like, wait, I think this is like a theatrical fun thing that's happening.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Now, this was before what we're going to talk about today that happened with the shooting. So that's when the theaters, you could do that kind of thing. Now you can't necessarily, and that's okay. We stand by that. But it was really fun, and the movie started like it was midnight, and I looked at my watch, and the movie hadn't started yet. And I remember running as fast as I could out to one of the maitre d's. That's not it. That's a restaurant.
But that's if you're being really nice.
Yeah, our theater's not that fancy.
But I went to them and I was like, the movie hasn't started. We're gonna see it later than everyone else.
Did you really do that?
I was mortified.
You're weird.
I've gotten so much better.
Give him a minute to press play.
Yeah, but then we saw it, and I felt a little mixed about it.
Okay.
And then after like 3 days, I loved it.
Okay.
And here we are.
Yeah.
We'll get into my mixed feelings later.
Okay.
Yeah,
But anyway.
I think Clayton and I will join you on mixed feelings on this movie.
Oh, I don't think there's anything mixed about it for me.
Oh boy, this is our Joker versus Bane right here.
There we go.
This is just
Well,
all the
that's- hey.
villains.
That's why we're here. I love the movie now, but I see the cracks in the pavement. It is not above perfection, I wouldn't say.
I know when I saw it, the midnight premiere, it could have done no wrong for me. So
Sure.
it was just perfect for me. And at the end of the movie, when Joseph Gordon-Levitt, they say his name, Robin, my sister and I were just like punching each other, like so excited. But I mean, since the years have gone on, I've seen it's like, no, it's not a perfect movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good that you've come to that realization.
Yeah.
So now when you see the line where he goes, let's use my middle name. My middle name is Robin. Now you're like, that's not perfect screenwriting. I once thought that was the best line I'd ever heard, and now I bump it down to 5 or 6.
Yeah.
It's not exactly Rosebud, but it's close.
pretty close, but yeah, not aging as well.
Yeah, I think in my head that was my Rosebud. And now
Robin's my
it is
Rosebud. Is that a cool T-shirt?
I think it is.
Do you guys sell merch?
Now we do. That's our first T-shirt.
Now, can I ask you guys? Oh, sorry, not to interrupt. Can I ask you a quick question? Because not to show how the donuts are made, but we have not been able to listen to the first 2 episodes where you guys talk about Batman Begins and Dark Knight Returns. So I don't know exactly what your guys' feelings are on those. And you were saying you're very high and they could basically do no wrong with this third one. I'm assuming that means you were very high on Dark Knight.
Yeah, for I'll speak for myself.
Yes.
But the Dark Knight trilogy, like when it came out, like this is the series that got me into movies. Like Christopher Nolan's like what got me into movies. And I think that a lot of people, I'll speak for like our age group. I just feel like a lot of people, even if they're not like that into movies, they know Christopher Nolan. I feel like he's a very easy like into movies kind of thing. I still think he's great, but he's definitely not like the best or anything. Like I'm not saying he's better than anyone at this point. Yeah. But that was for me. So I guess what I'm saying is because this is what got me into movies, it'll always have a really special place for me.
Yeah.
He's what Gremlins is to me. That's what Christopher Nolan is to you.
Cool.
Yeah, Gizmo and Stripe got him into movies.
Yeah.
Nice.
Now, are you a new Batch fan?
I do. You know what? I rewatched that recently with my 3-year-old niece, and she had just watched Gremlins and loved it. And then I was like, okay, you got to see part 2, New Batch. You're going to love it. It's so funny.
They shit on the movie you love.
And then we were watching. Yeah, well, that's the thing. We were watching it together, and she's not into it. And she's like, why is it taking so long to get to the Gremlins? And then I'm like, to this 3-year-old, I'm like, don't you love how this movie makes fun of the first movie? I think overestimating how old she. And then she's like, but I like the first movie. And then I realized, yeah, why did they do this? We like the first movie. Why is Gremlins 2 saying Gremlins 1 stinks?
Well, Joe Dante was not forced, but they offered him so much money and they wanted a sequel because it did so well that he said, I'm just going to do crazy stuff, make it a live action cartoon. Mm-hmm. And I love that movie, The New Batch, but I think a lot of it has to do with when I was younger, I used to read the film, like the, what are those called? Like the
Premiere Magazine?
Novelizations of movies.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And pretend that was high-minded. So I would walk around holding the book. I'd be like, oh, you saw Gremlins 2 in the theater? I read the book. And so I'd walk around with it, and that was one of my favorite of the novelizations, so I think I have a soft spot for that film. But also, I watched it recently, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
But I could understand why a child would not like it. It's a little meta for them.
So,
yeah.
To bring it back to Dark Knight Rises, I'll throw this out there. You know, Gremlins 2, Joe Dante didn't really want to do the sequel. They backed up the money truck, and he kind of made a sequel that was like a parody of the first movie. Mm-hmm. And I kind of feel there's a lot of similarities with Dark Knight Rises in that way because, like, you know, I know you're going to go into the production. Nolan didn't want to do it. And they backed up the money truck, and he kind of pretended that, oh, I have this great idea to end it, which he didn't. And in a lot of ways, I always feel like this movie is Nolan not making fun of the Batman stuff, but sort of like he is kind of in this movie saying, I don't have it. You know, like he's to me Batman in the cave having to be talked to for an hour and a half to finally go be Batman again. You know, like to
Oh,
me,
oh,
that's like,
I kind of
Yeah,
like that take
yeah.
a lot. Yeah.
you know, it's like Nolan is basically telling us in this movie, listen, I don't really have a new Batman movie, but I guess I'll put on the goddamn cape one more time and give you what you want.
Shoot, I think that's it.
Well, yeah, man. That is very. I do love it. I will say I love that take, whether I agree or not.
I
love
wish he
the
had
take.
gone full new batch and just done a parody of Dark Knight. You know, just go fully crazy and have them work in like, you know, the Bat Tower or whatever.
See, for me in this movie, so I will unabashedly defend this movie. I really will. I really will. But I will say, like I said, I can see the cracks in the pavement, and I think there's a lot of little things that are just very odd that a movie like Dark Knight and even Batman Begins, it's like, oh, those details are taken care of. And this movie kind of is not interested in all the little details like the other two movies are.
When
But
you
we're
say,
going to get into that.
when you say cracks in the pavement, do you mean the pavement of Pittsburgh Gotham or London Gotham or New York Gotham? Because this movie, it's like Gotham. Every time you have a camera angle, it's in a different city.
I would say a crack in all those.
Yeah.
I did
But,
love the Pittsburgh representation, though, because I'm from Pittsburgh originally. Hines Ward, he's my dude. He was in this. I was a big fan of that. I did see maybe an extra eating a Permane Brothers sandwich. That might have not been intentional. But yeah, no, you got to have some Pittsburgh representation.
That was just a union lighting guy that got into the shot.
Yeah.
Can you two hit us with your first experience with this movie and maybe even set us up on how you feel about the Dark Knight trilogy in general?
So I'll go first because Clayton, I know you have the more interesting first experience with this movie. So mine was, I did see it opening weekend. It was the Sunday morning of opening weekend. And I was like psyched. I have since come to like all of the Nolan movies a lot less over time. You know, like Dark Knight itself is not very repeatable for me, but I liked it when I saw it. I was psyched to go see this. Went, you know, bunch of friends. We had tickets ahead of time, so like a Sunday 9:30 a.m. showing. I think the most unique thing I remember about it is there was an usher. Everyone's seated in the auditorium, and we saw
A maitre d'. It was a maitre d'.
a maitre
Yeah,
d'.
Have some respect.
Walked us to our popcorn, and we're all sitting there, and then an usher comes out and like says to everyone, "Hey, I'm sorry, but the reel isn't here, and we can't show the movie," like something like that. It was so weird, and everyone starts booing, and then she goes, "Don't worry, I'm just joking. The movie starts now." And I was like, "Why would you do that?" And listen, like we've said, Dark Knight Rises had a lot of tenseness around the opening weekend. So also don't like lie to that crowd.
Totally.
Weekend. And also, the Joker's not in this. So don't do a Joker pun. Like, I'm just joking. Like like if you're gonna do that, you've got to be like, sorry for being the bane of your existence. The movie starts now.
Right. Well, clearly they hadn't seen the movie yet.
Right. That usher is like, I guess this is another one of those Joker movies.
Yeah.
And I'll say, as of now, I'm in a very negative, like, I think this movie is mostly not good. But when I saw it that day, I saw it with a bunch of people. I was like, this is definitely not as good as the other ones, but there's so much that I was into that I definitely did. But it's like every time I saw a Star Wars prequel in the theater, I also left being like, that was good, right? And then, of course, I'm like, no, that's really bad, like a year later. So I think that's where I'm at with Dark Knight Rises, is the same place I would be with like the Lucas Star Wars prequels, where like I had to see it opening day, didn't hate it, and then like if I ever catch it on TNT, I'm kind of like, this is not a good movie.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, I mean, unlike our most recent outing with Batman, it's not 4 hours, which is great for me.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take 4 hours. So whether you like it or not.
Justice League, did you talk about that, or you just watched it recently?
So we've covered the old Batmans, then we took a little trilogy break, did Unbreakable series. Now we're doing this, and then gonna take another trilogy break, and then we're tackling the DC universe.
Okay.
Starting with Man of Steel.
God bless.
I know.
Thank you.
I got a headache just thinking about it.
We're not doing the 4 hour thing though. I can't. Not even for this podcast.
We're sticking to theatrical, but one of these days I'll finish part 5, I think I'm on. I have to space it out. I don't like it a lot.
Snyder Cut to me is better than the Justice League, but it is a terrible movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it is so much better than the other movie, but it also stinks so much.
Yeah.
It's insane watching Justice League because I go, man, I really don't like this. And then I do think about the theatrical version and I go, oh, but that movie's like, it's no contest that this is better.
Oh, yes. Snyder Cut is a million times better than Justice League, and it's one of the worst movies of the year.
Well, Clayton, hit us with your Batman experience.
Okay, great. So, I saw the first 2 of this trilogy in the theater. Was not a fan of the first one. Found it to be too long. Was not very sold on Bale. I mean, like everybody, I don't want to be cliche, but the Batman voice is a little bit ridiculous for me. I have a hard time with it. The second film, Dark Knight, I saw in the theater, was not blown away. I'm not a huge fan of the Ledger Joker. You know what the thing is? I'm not an ASMR guy, and a lot of the lip licking was difficult for me.
Yeah.
and I thought it was fine, but obviously, like, you know, people are gonna hate me for this, but I'm a Nicholson guy. You know, come on, the Nicholson.
I'm okay with
right?
Nicholson. I was just hoping you weren't gonna put Joaquin above him.
No, that's a whole nother story. But
yeah.
I know there's a difference, right? I'm not saying that everybody has to be Nicholson and I can't have anything else. I just wasn't blown away by the performance, and I don't think it wasn't bad. It just wasn't my cup of tea. So I did not have any real want or need to see this film in the theater. So I didn't. And the first time I saw this film was today on iTunes before the recording of this podcast.
Wow.
Whoa.
Was my first time ever seeing this film the whole way through.
I love this. This is interesting.
Now, I have an issue because it's not on HBO Max. It's the only of the 3 that isn't on HBO Max right now. So I had to rent it, which is so... I mean, I love HBO Max. The day and date stuff is awesome. I mean, we could talk about the business model of that, but for the consumer, it's great. But you gotta have all the Batman movies, huh? Why can't that be where I go to see this? Because I thought, this is great. Never saw this movie. Gonna do my due diligence and watch this film. Go to look for it on HBO Max. Not there. So
that's crazy.
Already a sour taste in my mouth.
Definitely.
So I watched the movie today, and obviously, since it's a home viewing experience, it isn't as good as the theater experience. I think me and Pat can both agree. I don't know how you guys feel, but like theater's where it's at. That's how you experience a movie.
So you're saying Nolan didn't intend you to watch this on your phone?
No, I tried to get it onto my old iPod. Like that person did with Tenet, which I thought was hilarious. But I didn't have time.
Yeah.
I had to watch it. So I did watch it, and you know, there's some cool action set pieces and stuff, but the Bane, I love Tom Hardy, and I'm a big Venom apologist. I love that performance in Venom. I love a lot of his performances, but this is just not a performance I can get behind in any shape or form.
Wow, okay.
I found it really distracting.
Actually makes sense. I can dig that.
I found it very distracting, and because if you do the Batman voice and the Bane voice, that's just bad improv. They're just level 1 improvers.
And then you have that old guy doing a Michael Caine impression.
Yeah, you've got the Michael Caine impression, which is, listen, I like it for a couple scenes during the trip, but it can't be the whole movie.
Right.
So you got that. So it was long, 2 hours and 44 minutes. That's just too long for any sort of movie, unless it's the Snyder Cut, which could never end. And I'm just not a huge fan of the Nolan Batmans. I know this was a very long diatribe, but me personally, I'm not a big fan of the trilogy in general. But I do find it fascinating box office wise when we get to that point, because it is a very interesting step up for Nolan and a crazy trajectory for these movies.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So listeners, we've really set the table. We have a couple of Batmans sitting here. We have definitely a Joker with this chaos of watching the movie right before. And then we have the methodical Bane. So we're going to see what happens by the end of this episode. Let me hit you with a couple. Let's just talk about who made this movie. Mm-hmm. And then we'll go right into the box office. So, of course, it's directed by Christopher Nolan. We have a screenplay by Jonathan and Christopher Nolan, just like Dark Knight. Story by Christopher Nolan and David S. Goyer, just like Dark Knight. We have music by Hans Zimmer. No James Newton Howard this time.
Okay.
James Newton Howard felt like after the chemistry between Hans and Nolan in Inception, he felt like him being in this movie would be a bit of a third wheel experience for him.
Oh, okay. So
he backed out. Wally Pfister is on the cinematography again. The further we get into series, if it's the same production team, it's always a little less interesting to bring up. And like I said, comes out July 20th, 2012, and it has a $230 million budget. That's including the tax credit. And then break down the box office, boys.
So the Dark Knight Rises, well, I mean, I guess the history of the Nolan trilogy as far as box office is that, like, Batman Begins was a hit, but it was not a, like, blow away gigantic hit in 2005. Let's see, the total, because it opened up in its opening weekend 2005 at $48 million. And then in total, it ended up domestically, which is what me and Clayton always go by domestic. That one ended up at $205 million. So not a giant hit. The big jump up is Dark Knight in 2008. That movie ended up at $533 million domestically. The one with the Ledger Joker. Like, that one was the cultural event. You know, it's like Joker's back. And also the lead, Ledger had passed away and everyone loved the trailer. So, like, that one was the movie of the year. Dark Knight Rises ended up domestically at $448 million, so less than Dark Knight. So, I mean, it's a giant hit, but I think the story of it is that it didn't top the previous one. It's not as buzzy. And I think the thing to remember is also this is 2012 is the year of the Avengers. So, like,
right,
the culture had kind of, like, the box office culture had moved on to, like, the new hotness, which is Marvel.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah, because The Dark Knight came out in 2008, which is the same year as Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so that was the 2008 is looked at as that beginning of the superhero reign. And so Dark Knight opened to 158 million. So you compare that to Batman Begins, which is 48, didn't even make 50 million. That's an insane jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas in 2012, Avengers domestically makes 619 million. So it beats Dark Knight Rises by 170 million domestic.
That's insane.
So, like,
I mean, that was a phenomenon.
Right. So I think
Still
box
is.
office wise, it's obviously a huge hit. It's the domestically second biggest movie of the year, but it's only like 40 million higher that year than what Hunger Games does. So it's human again. Dark Knight was inhuman. Dark Knight Rises comes back down to human level. but it's still a mega hit. You know, I think it didn't go from like Infinity War to Endgame.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It feels like, though, when you look at the Dark Knight Rises and something like Spider-Man 3 of that original trilogy, it almost feels like there's just that leftover momentum from the second films that are making everybody go. And I don't know, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, this isn't a beloved film. I think it's people who have its defenders and people who don't like it and people who are meh on it, but it's not the one that you would say, oh, if you want to watch a Nolan Batman movie, this is the one to watch. And I think it's the same thing with Spider-Man 3. I mean, I love Sam Raimi, but there's a lot of elements to that film that don't work. But it when you look at the box office, it made a lot of money, but I don't think it's a well-loved or well-remembered film. And I think that's where this film lives.
Well, and also something that Clayton and I talk about a lot on the BO Boys is movie stars. And the biggest movie star going today, you know, it's close. It could be, you could say it's Leo DiCaprio. He is as big of a movie star, doesn't need IP. Everything he does a hit. But probably the biggest movie star in the world is Joker.
Mm-hmm.
Joker is the guy.
Yeah.
And, you know, you had the original Burton Batman had Joker in it. Mm-hmm. Dark Knight had the biggest movie star in the world that had Joker. Dark Knight Rises does not have Joker.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's and of course, what does have Joker? Joker.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it's $1 billion baby worldwide.
Right.
$1 billion baby.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is the thing when you think about this movie. Christian Bale, big star, but he's not a movie star at the level of Joker. This movie was missing Joker.
Great take.
Yeah.
And factual, actually. You got the numbers to back it up. So, we got the box office rundown. Now, let's take a trip down memory lane, and let's recall that in 2005, David S. Goyer, before Batman Begins was released, he wrote treatments for 2 movies. So the sequel had Joker in it, of course, and it would involve Batman, Harvey Dent, and Commissioner Gordon hunting the Joker, while the second would have the Joker scarring Dent and turning him into Two-Face during his trial. So that was David Goyer's like original arc of the series. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, Heath Ledger tragically dies, and they're not able to move forward with anything, but they did they wanted to make a third movie that would have included a Joker, which is a fun idea, I think, for how well they set up that Joker and stuff. Like, I'm not interested in seeing multiple Jared Leto Jokers, but a Heath Ledger Joker, rack them up for me.
Yeah. I think that's like hanging over Dark Knight Rises is that
definitely
it's obvious Nolan was planning on a Joker story for this movie, and I don't think he ever found the replacement for that. You know, and I differ from Clayton. I like the Hardy Bane. I think it's cool. Me and my friends all did the voices for, you know, it was our new Austin Powers. Bane was the new Borat. We all did I Was Born in the Darkness. Like, that's fun.
Yeah.
But it makes so much more sense, this third movie, if it is about the Joker still fucking with him.
Yeah. What's interesting is I feel like it simultaneously is the smartest thing they did and the least smart thing they did. Because they made the movie kind of tying together mostly Batman Begins and this movie, going through the Raw stuff, which I really like. I think it's cool. But at the same time, they ignore the Joker stuff, which is, it's like, I feel like it was so close to Heath Ledger's death still that it would have come off as disrespectful, I think, if they were talking about the Joker, or if they said something like, oh, he died in prison, or something. Like, I hate when they do that in movies because someone was recast and they just kind of go, whoops, something happened off screen.
Well, Clayton, what's the most famous egregious example of that?
Oh, it's Independence Day Resurrection, where Will Smith is only shown in a photo on the wall, and his son, I believe, mentions that he died in a test flight.
Yeah.
Not a mission.
Test flight?
Not a mission. We're not talking a mission. We're talking a test flight. A test flight.
We're talking practice.
We're talking practice. That is so disrespectful to Will Smith as a star and that character, whatever that character's name is, because I only think of him as Will Smith in space because he's a star and that's what you think. But that is a disrespectful way. And it is, okay, so you didn't give him enough money to come back for this sequel. That's the issue here. But yeah, that was ridiculous.
So yeah, you're right, Micah. It is good that Nolan didn't do that and didn't have someone toss off a line. It's like, oh, remember Joker who died in like a practice prank? Remember a year ago when Joker like accidentally blew himself up setting up a hospital explosion? Mm-hmm. Like that would have been disrespectful. So I do give Nolan respect for respecting the stardom of Joker.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But so contrary to what you both are saying, and we have to believe this, we have to. Nolan only agreed to do a third film based on it being a worthwhile story. And if it was unnecessary, he wasn't going to do it. So that proves you both wrong right there.
Well, he also said Tenet would bring back the domestic box office. So,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how much I trust Christopher Nolan. Famously the dead horse of the B.O. Boys because we beat on him so often.
Yes. Rightfully so. I mean, he didn't care about public health, and then he got really mad at Warner Brothers when they said the day and date, and it was like, you lost your privilege after Tenet bombed.
Yep,
Although,
exactly.
I do like that movie, but I get people not liking it, and I think they're also right.
Well, guys, it's coming to HBO Max May 1st. So people are going to be clamoring to see that movie after how many months it's been out?
Yeah.
That is ridiculous that they waited that long for it to go to the worst streaming service, I believe Nolan referred to HBO Max as, right? When they when they make the announcement for the day and date for all the releases in 2021, Christopher Nolan said that those movies are going to be all going to the worst streaming service. So now your movie's on the worst streaming service. There you go, Nolan.
Well, and let me, because we're digging into Nolan. As you know, listener, we love Nolan, but he is not a perfect man.
Yes.
And we should not herald him as the greatest because every artist takes after other artists. And sometimes people pretend like Nolan, isn't Michael Mann, but he's Michael Mann doing sci-fi. We should know this. But let's talk about his IMAX obsession. So in Dark Knight, he shoots in IMAX, and there's 28 minutes in The Dark Knight. Then there's no IMAX in Inception, which I was surprised to learn. And then in this movie, there's over 1 hour of IMAX. Then he goes on for 75% in Dunkirk. I couldn't find any percentage estimates on Interstellar. And then Tenet's around 50%. Because again, you have to dub everything when it's an IMAX shot because you can't capture audio. The cameras are too loud. But I think this kind of speaks to both what I love and don't like about him because it's like, he shoots these IMAX. They look amazing. The plane sequence at the beginning of this movie is amazing. It looks so unbelievable. But at the same time, then he puts these weird things where it's like, you have to project my movie a certain way. Or I'm going to make Tenet and make everything inaudible. And only if you have a perfect IMAX stereo system will you be able to understand what's happening in the movie. I don't think that's necessarily smart filmmaking, personally. But,
I mean,
it's kind of cool.
It's exclusionary in a way that I think it doesn't really help his artistry. I don't think there's any reasoning for it other than it's just what he wants to do, which is great. Artists should be artists. But there is a level of, well, is this a blockbuster tentpole movie? It is. So I'm not saying dumb it down, and I'm not saying don't make artistic choices, but I'm also saying that you need to make it available to more people than you you are, and you can't talk shit about the people who don't have the perfect surroundings to watch this film, right? And one of the reasons we're talking about how he doesn't care about public safety, and it's partly joking, but partly not, because when they released Tenet and the drive-ins were available for screens, he would not allow drive-ins in areas where the hardtop theaters were closed. So he wouldn't let you see Tenet in the New York area because he didn't want you to see it on a drive-in movie screen, which at the time was the safest way to see his film. That shows disrespect for a public health crisis when it's honestly, we love movies. Listen, we wouldn't be talking about this movie if we didn't love movies, but it is just a movie, and this is a unique circumstance, and he doesn't care about goodwill, I guess, at all, because I feel like if he said, release it everywhere, the goodwill that he would have would be off the charts. But now he just seems like the cranky old guy who's like, everything has to be to my specifications, or it's like you didn't even see my movie.
Yeah.
I think with all of that too, it was like, okay, so does Tenet, like, I don't really want to see that movie now. And then when we did see it with all of that stuff surrounding it, it's like, well, this movie just kind of feels like too high class for me, because he was trying so hard to make it so like his way, and it did cloud my movie watching experience of that.
Yeah,
because he was just like, basically, no normal people can watch my movie.
Yeah.
And when you look at someone like Tarantino, who he does have showings of his movies in the format he would prefer, but also, he's a guy who worked at a video store, so he realizes that you might not have been able to see the red balloon in a theater, but if you had a VHS of it, you could still experience the artistry of it and someday be able to see it on the screen. And it's an experience. And I think Nolan doesn't feel that way. He doesn't seem like one of the people, which I don't think artists need to be, but you got to be more of a person than Nolan is.
It would have helped Nolan, I think, if he had I don't know what his summer jobs were when he was a kid, but I feel like he didn't have that. If he had a year working at a Blockbuster, or maybe hawking bootleg DVDs off a blanket in Times Square, had some of that in his background, I think he would be a much better filmmaker than he is. But my guess is, Nolan, again, I'm just guessing, probably private school education all the way through, and Warren Ascot as a teenager, and
he was summering at the beach.
And summering at the beach. And I think if Nolan had just done a summer at a video store that had the beaded adult film section in the back, I think he'd be a better person and a better filmmaker.
Oh, yeah. It's like, I think everyone, for a short amount of time, however, should work in like a coffee shop, customer service, because as someone who has worked in a coffee shop and been treated so poorly by people, it's like, okay, well, if you had ever worked a day in this situation, you would not be talking to me like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be a maitre d' at a movie theater.
Yeah.
But having said that, Nolan, you're always welcome on the podcast, and we know that you listen. We're assuming. We're pretty sure.
He listens to the BO Boys, so he definitely is going to listen to this episode at the very least.
And it's constructive criticism. I still love Tenet, okay? I love your movies. So, come on, talk to us about IMAX. Tell us that every other format is bad. Get on here. So I got one more thing that I want to say, and then we'll jump into actors. I don't know if you remember this, but when the movie, so he shoots it's like the first 6 minutes of the movie are in IMAX. And this is like one of the, you have The Dark Knight, and then you have this for like, we can shoot like blockbuster movies in this format. Watch this. So he gets the 6-minute prologue, and he shows it to filmmakers and stuff. They're special in like IMAX theaters. They're showing this before movies. And everyone is saying, I can't understand a single word that Bane is saying. The way it's mixed, the way he's speaking and stuff, they're like, I don't get it. I don't know what he's saying. So then they go in, and Tom Hardy redubs all the Bane voice, and they mix it differently. And this is my thesis. This is the beginning of Nolan's weird obsession to sound. Because every movie after this, there's always something. Sometimes it works, like in Dunkirk. I think it's great that the movie's way too loud because it's a war movie.
Mm-hmm.
But in Tenet, and even though I love Interstellar so very much, it does get, if you're at home, you have to have your volume knob in your hand
Or
and
turn on the subtitles.
yeah, and you got to be going back and forth the whole movie. That's just how those two movies are. So I think this is the nexus point where that all begins. Bane's voice.
So that test audience was his Joker. You know, that is when Nolan's parents were killed and he had to eventually don the cape of what would turn into Tenet.
Yes. I mean, he does make sense as a Bruce Wayne,
Character?
He seems like a real life Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, just like a rich guy who spends all of this money to like make up for like an injustice that happened to him like years and years ago.
And Chris, you're welcome on the show. We love you.
Of course.
I'm sorry. I feel like his main influence for sound mixing is whoever does the musical guests on SNL. Because it's very similar in that they've been doing that movie. They've been doing that show for 46 years, and they can't make a musical guest sound halfway decent.
Wow.
I love it. You may have cracked the case.
I don't know that guy's name, but let's figure it out. Season 47 coming up, and it's the end of 46. Season 47 coming up. Let's fix it for that.
Just
It's totally
let
off
the bands
topic.
have their own people come in and do it.
Yeah, why not?
But I think that's like contractually not allowed or something weird
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, it's probably the same guy who was eating the Permane Brothers sandwich doing the knobs. He's just like,
Oh, it definitely is.
fries falling out of it, coleslaw falling on the mixing board.
All right, Jordan, hit us.
Okay, there's only a couple.
Couple newbies.
Yeah, so we have not covered Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
We haven't, no.
So Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays Blake, or later to find out, Robin.
What?
He is in, of course, Angels in the Outfield. Right? Did I say that right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I was just blinking. He's also in, of course, Inception, Looper, Dear John,
500 Days of
50-50,
Summer.
500 Days of Summer, blah, 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 blah. He's in so much. He's great. And then Marion Cotillard, I think is how you say it, but I could be wrong about that.
Okay.
She is also in Inception. She's also in The Immigrant. She's in Doolittle, Angel Face, Rock and Roll.
A French actor, too.
Yeah.
If you couldn't pick that up watching the movie.
And then we also have Anne Hathaway, of course, Princess Diaries, Les Miserables, Colossal, Lockdown, that one from a couple years. Oh, she's in Ocean's 8.
Yeah.
And you even have, what was the one? The Intern with
Bobby De Niro.
Yeah. And then, of course, also Tom Hardy, who plays Bane. I think
This is like his big break, right?
This was when my sister was like, "Oh, I'm in love with Tom Hardy."
Yeah.
The rest is history for her. So he's also in Locke, also Inception, Mad Max, of course, and Peaky Blinders and Venom, among several other things as well.
Because he's a British actor and he did really well over there. And then he does is it Refn that he does a couple of his movies? He does what's that? Bronson?
Oh, Bronson. Yeah.
Which, have you guys seen Bronson?
I have. Yeah, I like that a lot. I love Tom Hardy, and
Yeah.
I think you're right, because it was Inception was like his big Hollywood breakout, and this was probably, I mean, definitely the biggest movie he had ever been in at that point.
Definitely.
Well, the Inception was like, who's this guy? He's cool. And then Dark Knight Rises was like, oh, that's Tom Hardy. We all know him and love him.
Yes. Yeah.
Is the bridge there. And then Venom makes him a full-blown movie star, right?
Well, I think Mad Max does, because then Venom comes after that.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
another film where he is muzzled for a lot of it and kind of plays second fiddle, but that's part of the charm of it, I feel like. That's the charm of his Mad Max is that he doesn't do much.
Right.
But he's okay to be these kind of side characters even when he's supposed to be the main character.
Well, yeah, I mean, Dark Knight Rises is the beginning of his Mask trilogy because you have Dark Knight Rises, Mad Max, and then he finishes it off with Dunkirk.
Yes.
It's so weird he's in Dunkirk. Like
Yeah.
there's no, like I could have been in Dunkirk. Like no one's really in Dunkirk.
Yeah.
You know, it's so crazy that they even bothered paying a star to be in it because like no one's really visible in the movie.
Sure.
I just feel like if you make a war movie, you have to saturate it with famous people.
Mm-hmm.
They're always full of them.
And you know who's in that movie? Who's in it? Mark Rylance. We love him.
Oh, Mark Rylance is in that. I would say I've got. I don't like Dunkirk. I feel like I don't want to come off as like a hater on Nolan.
Yeah.
I don't hate him. He's our dead horse, you know, and we just got to do what we do with a dead horse.
And I think there is a level of he's not our guy. He's
not
not one of our guys.
Not one of our guys.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
What do you guys think of Anne Hathaway in this movie?
I really like her performance.
I do too.
I think
she's great.
she's able to do kind of a new take on Catwoman as opposed to like copying Michelle Pfeiffer.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept thinking, because there's quite a few action scenes where the camera's just static on her. It's not cutting, and it's clearly her. And I'm like, where is her Atomic Blonde?
Mm-hmm.
She's got the moves. Well, she needs her taken or something.
Yeah. I like Anne Hathaway a lot. I feel like she gets a lot of crap. People hate her just cause. I don't know. I guess she's other people's dead horse. So, you know, God bless them. I don't want to take away any dead horses from people. But I like her a lot. I feel like that's one of the problems, though, of this movie is Nolan doesn't really know what to do with this Catwoman that he created. Because he created a Catwoman whose whole thing is like, she's Bernie Catwoman. You know, she's like... because this was like obviously a lot of Occupy Wall Street stuff in this movie, and Catwoman is supposed to be a, like steal from the rich, give to the poor, bring down the corporations. But I feel like he doesn't have a take on that in this movie. Like it's all muddled, his like, you know, economic stuff. And then he doesn't really use Catwoman in a clear way. Because in the end of this movie, she's just like, actually, the rich guy is who I love. And
that's a good point.
It's like there could have been a great version of this where Catwoman is a really important character, but I don't think he nails it. But I think Hathaway's really good.
She always tries.
Yeah,
I think she's the kind of person that gets knocked for trying. She always tries. And I think, like you said, Atomic Blonde, that kind of film, she would get in such incredible shape and get all of the fight choreography down pat because she always tries. And I think that you see this in the movie that she's really committed to trying to be what Nolan wants this character to be, but like Pat said, Nolan doesn't have a good idea of what this character is.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting, like, especially with how her character ends up. Because it's like, so she's just with Bruce. I mean, it's like she is kind of like a selfish character trying to serve herself. But like at the part of the movie when like basically the poor are taking over the rich and people are like going through everyone's house and she seems unhappy about it. Mm-hmm. It is like, okay, so is this not what you wanted? Because this is kind of what you've been fighting for.
Well, yeah, her friend even says,
yeah,
this is what you've always wanted. And I think she just says not like this.
Yeah. I think that is, you know, I think that's one of the real problems with this movie is I don't understand Nolan's take. He like opened up a Pandora's box of like, this movie is going to be playing with all this Occupy imagery and it's going to be about, you know, economic upheaval. And in the end, his take is sort of, oh, but maybe the rich people are right, I guess. It's a weird, muddled take where the movie ends with the like uprisers being beaten to death by the rich guy and the police. Right. And then like the Catwoman Robin Hood figure is like, ooh, I'm gonna go to France with the rich guy. Which I guess makes sense for Nolan, who never worked at a video store and, never, and just like he grew up wearing an ascot from when he was a baby. So I guess it does make sense, but it's kind of a, the way he sets us up is like Bane's kind of the hero. I'm pro Bane.
Yeah, it is. Ideologically, the movie is like Shrek. I mean, there's a lot of layers to it, and it's hard to kind of figure out because it does feel like the resolution is, well, as long as the rich people and whatnot are nice, we're set, we're good. But I don't know. Maybe another way to read it is that, maybe we agree with Bane on all this stuff, but he's taking it too far. He's lost humanity.
Right.
It's kind of like he left it, which could be a knock, could be good. I don't know. It's like he left it in such a way that you can kind of watch it and you can make it fit what you want it to say, which can be kind of a dangerous thing. I don't know. That's weird. And that's why we're talking about it. But I think that's where the Catwoman character doesn't get to be great in this movie because her motivations are so sort of muddled, and I think in the end kind of don't really ring true to what they set up at the beginning. Yeah. Well, and we have the classic trope that Jordan pointed out a little while ago where Bruce Wayne visits her at her apartment. And she says, it's not much, and it's like the biggest apartment I've ever seen with like Persian rugs. Yeah. And it looks really nice. It just looks like she needs to open a window.
Well, it's like this nice, like bohemian-looking apartment. And it's like, you're supposed to be poor. Don't, like, if you were poor, you probably wouldn't have pictures to hang on the wall. But you have artwork in here. But she probably stole it. Okay. But still.
I guess, we could assume she stole all those rugs. But, I mean, that'd be a tough hijack, frankly. I mean,
she could do it.
Okay, so let's dig into the plot. So the movie begins, and we have, just as the others, we have the bat symbol, shows up through ice. It's winter in Gotham, and we see a little bit of Harvey Dent's, not funeral, but it's gonna be.
Well, it didn't hit. Well,
it just shows Harvey Dent's, because they have Harvey Dent Day now.
God,
they're celebrating Harvey Dent.
They love this goddamn district attorney. It's such a weird conceit in this trilogy where like the biggest celebrity in this town is a DA. It's like, if I put a gun to every New Yorker's head, I would end up shooting most of them if they had to answer who's the district attorney, who's the lead DA. No one knows who that. But Gotham loves this guy. They love him.
Yeah.
To me, it's just like, this is such a comic book thing that people would be so invested in a person who legally fights crime. I guess.
And this I really, really like. I like the Harvey Dent stuff. I like that, they passed this act and they were able to lock away all these prisoners in Blackgate, and it's all based on a lie. Because I think that's a nice payoff to how Dark Knight ends. Once again, I don't know what he is trying to say by like overcrowding prisons. It feels like there could be something there, but I don't know if that's his stance that he's trying to make, that like the prison system is bad because they wanted this to happen. So that's goes right into what you're saying, where it's like ideologically, this is a confusing movie.
Kind of like just pick a lane.
Yeah. But so they're, we see that funeral, and then we go to the plane scene. Now, I don't care what anyone says. This plane scene is beautiful. I love this. I was watching all the special features, and that's a real plane. It's, they do have to do some compositing, but they do have they have a built plane on the ground that they can flip so that the actors can literally be in that tunneled area.
Mm-hmm.
They have a real plane. They have real guys coming down onto this plane. I mean, this is like Mission Impossible level stuff. I love it. I love it.
Tom was probably one of those guys.
Coming down?
Yeah.
Oh, Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just too much fun for him not to be involved in.
He was like, we're not shooting this month for Mission Impossible. I need to stay in shape.
Well, I think he was just flying down in a scene from a Mission Impossible movie that was filming in the same airspace.
Yeah.
And
he just sees other guys on cables like, oh, I think like I'll just help him.
Yeah.
He brought his own
Just get
cable.
over here.
He always brings his own cable.
And so this scene's crazy. They blow up like the tail of this plane, and Bane drops down. It's very convoluted, but
Bane's
it's
already in the plane.
Oh, yes, he is. There's that whole thing where, you know, if you take off the mask, it would be very painful for you.
Yeah.
You know? I'm into it. I'm sitting there and I'm like, I feel like I'm reading a comic book. This rules.
I love the first
Loving
scene.
all
I
this.
love Bane. I think Bane is awesome in this.
Yeah. And so they put a body down there, and they take Dr. Pavel, who's this nuclear physicist, you know, and we got to talk Pavel, of course. And they put his blood into the body. They drop the plane. That shot is insane.
Yeah.
And then that's going to set up the events of the movie. And then now we're back at, because it did just like a little shot of Harvey Dent's commemoration. Now we're back at that area. And, you know, we're at Wayne Manor. He's a recluse. We're getting into Frank Miller, Dark Knight Returns kind of stuff where he's not Batman anymore. And it's been 8 years. What do you guys think of Bruce Wayne not being Batman anymore?
I mean, I think personally, like, as the character probably, I mean, from what I know of Batman, I mean, his obsession is, like, if he's not Batman, he's not Bruce Wayne. Like, the whole, and not to go back to the whole Michael Keaton of it, but Michael Keaton's whole thing was Bruce Wayne is the mask. Batman is the real person, and, you know, Bruce Wayne is the mask. And I just feel like 8 years, the reason, not to spoil Dark Knight, the Miller Dark Knight, but it's because of what happened to Robin is why he retires. It's like a huge tragedy. Mm-hmm. And hear him not being Batman for 8 years, I don't know if it necessarily like fits his character.
Well, do recall that the woman he loved was murdered in the last film.
Oh, that's true. Okay,
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Yeah.
I
That'd
totally
be enough
forgot
for
about
me,
that.
but I'm no Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's fine. I think what didn't work for me about the retired Batman plot in this is they knew this was going to be the last one. And the end point they get to in this is that Batman retires, right? And so they start this movie with the problem being Batman is retired, you know?
Yeah.
And so to me, it's always a weird structure where it's like, we start with him not wanting to be Batman, and then he gets to the place in the end where he doesn't be Batman anymore. And I get, like, in the end, he chooses it out of happiness, and at the beginning, he's there out of, like, sadness. But it almost would have made more sense to me if, like, this movie is about him realizing, I'm a nut, and I gotta be a nut to the day I die, and I'm always gonna be Batman. You know, it was always weird in this that it's like he starts retired and he ends retired. Where I'm like, all right,
totally.
Well then, and most of the movie he's in a bed, so it's like it's such a weird inert Batman in this movie where it's like he's retired, he's in a bed, he comes back for a fight, then he's retired again. I'm like, all right, just, you know what? Maybe we should have just let this guy chill out the whole time.
You know, I'm realizing that this movie is kind of, I like it a lot more than Batman Returns, but it kind of is that thing where it's like, there's a lot of plot. It's really insane. And it's just a weird movie.
There's
it's
so
a
much
lot
plot.
weirder than you think it is.
Yeah.
And then you watch Dark Knight Rises and you're like, this is strange. You watch Batman Returns and you're like, this is weird. This is so wild.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not quite as balls to the walls as Batman Returns, obviously.
Oh, Batman
But-
Returns is so awesome. I fucking love that movie so much. I love that it's about the Penguin becoming the mayor. That's
Yeah, I know.
the greatest villain plot ever. Is I'm gonna be the mayor, and then shit's really gonna be nuts.
We love Cobblepot. I'd vote
Yeah.
for Cobblepot,
Oh,
of course.
And he's a viable candidate. He
Yeah.
is. He makes just as much sense. Listen, I live in New York, and we're about to have fucking Andrew Yang end up being the mayor. Send me the Penguin. We'd vote Penguin. No, Penguin. I get it. I get why the people voted for Penguin.
As a New Yorker, you get it.
As a New Yorker, I get.
Yeah, as a on the Pacific Coast, I'm more of a Mr. Freeze voter, I would say,
Yeah,
I
you
think
like
I'd vote
them
for
cool and
Freeze.
laid back. We like just like short
Yeah.
and angry,
Yeah, yeah.
and always in pajamas, stumbling the streets in
Yeah,
pajamas.
right. With like oil coming out of his mouth.
Yeah, if he won't eat your babies, he won't do the dirty work that needs to be done to be mayor.
Yeah, New York needs someone as ruthless as that.
Yeah. Gotta
We
get
need
those
Mr.
subways.
Freeze to just keep things cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we get introed to Catwoman.
Okay.
Why don't you take over a little bit here?
Well, she is like one of the servers at this thing, and she is told to go give dinner to Bruce, and she lingers longer than she's supposed to, and meets Bruce, and that's when we see Bruce. And we've been talking. He's got a cane. He limps. He's got bad facial hair. He's a sad person.
He looks pretty bad. They did a good job. He looks bad.
I think the facial hair looks weird. Makeup wise.
Oh,
I think the
sure,
facial
sure.
hair looks
He
kind of
looks
weird.
thin and gaunt and
Sure. And as we know, Christian Bale loves physically altering his appearance himself. And then the makeup people can do the rest. But yeah, she steals some pearls from his safe and also gets his fingerprints and
Yes.
jumps out of the window like a cat. That's
Yes.
about it for her introduction. We don't get much.
She kicks
Right.
his cane away, which was cool. That's a
He
ruthless
does.
move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She never is referred to as Catwoman, right? They never say Catwoman
Right.
in this.
No.
Yeah, it's the weird Nolan thing in this trilogy where he's always fighting against what these movies are.
Yeah.
Where it's like
Yeah.
it's like in the end, no matter how you set up Bruce Wayne and his motivations, and it's not really a bat suit, it's this rubber, army suit or whatever he puts on. It's like, listen, dude, in the end, this guy's Batman and she's
Yeah.
Catwoman, and just fucking accept that you're not making Heat, you're making a Batman movie.
Hmm.
The thing to keep in mind, though, I think, and since we've been going through the Batman conglomerate,
Mhm.
is that people were so burned by Batman and Robin that they needed this to not be cartoony.
Yeah.
Now, by Dark Knight Rises time, I think you can loosen up a little bit. You can call someone Catwoman.
Yes.
Although when I was a senior in high school and this comes out, I'm like, Catwoman's in this? That sounds cheesy. Because, of course, when you're a high schooler, you think cheesy is bad.
Right.
But now I watch Batman and Robin, and I'm like, this is one heck of a ride, and I like this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in this, for her costume, they even go so far as like she has like those night vision goggles, and when she puts them up on their head, it's like cat ears.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But that's like the only time she looks like a cat person.
which I dig it.
I think
I
I
dig
think
it.
it's fun, but I do kind of think like it is like we're just not gonna call her. We're only gonna call her Selena like
Yeah.
this whole time,
And
and
there
not
is
say what it is.
there is a bit of what you're saying, Pat, where there's a fighting against the material.
Right. Just have a newspaper
Definitely.
headline say Catwoman terrorizes, with burglaries. And then
Yeah.
then he's like, "Hey, you Catwoman?" And she's like, "Sure, I guess I'm Catwoman."
Yeah, because she
Fine.
can be dubbed that by the media. It's not like she has to be like, I named myself Catwoman. It could be
Right.
like, yeah,
Sure.
the media calls her Catwoman. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. The same way it was like the New York Post would call Michael Jackson Wacko Jacko. And
that's
then
his
eventually it sticks, and that's what everyone called him, you know?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, we need a cut to J. Jonah Jameson where he's saying, give me a name for this guy, this girl.
Right.
And, you know, they're suggesting names.
The rest is history.
Right.
You know, the greatest comic book character ever put to film, J. Jonah Jameson, played by the great J.K. Simmons. Where's his Oscar for JD? Okay, so Bruce and Alfred are talking, and Alfred is very much like, I wish that you would become a person again, and I have this dream every time I go on vacation in France, I go to this cafe, and I just wish I could see you there. We wouldn't speak, and I'd see you maybe with a wife, maybe with kids, and I just wish you could learn to live. And of course, Bruce is like, but Rachel died. I can't move on.
Yeah. To which Alfred's like, any woman, just marry or go on a date with any woman. That's fine with me. Kind of like a parent. Just like, you need to get out of the house. You're bothering me.
You don't have to get married now. Just have some fun, Brucey.
Yeah. And then we have Gordon under Gotham. That's my note. And I'm trying to remember what that means.
Okay, so when Selena leaves the Bruce Manor, she takes the senator with her, and she basically kidnapped him for a couple days.
Yeah.
I
think it's the same night.
No, I think it's been a couple days because it's in the news.
Fine.
Like he never came home that night.
It
was in the news. And she goes to meet with that one guy. I can't remember what his character name is, but she sells the fingerprints.
Bruce Wayne's fingerprints.
Yes. Yeah. And she has the senator there as like, if you don't give me what you owe me, you're going to get in trouble for kidnapping him kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then gunfire.
And she does some nice stunt choreography.
Yeah. And I like her acting a lot too in the scene where she's like damsel in distress, and then she's moving again.
Yeah, when she's screaming as the SWAT guys walk next to her and stuff. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, give her taken.
Mm-hmm.
She needs to be a Liam Neeson type.
Sure.
To me.
but the shootout ends up in the sewers.
That's right. And then Gordon is captured by a couple of Bane cronies.
Mm-hmm.
And he's able to escape just barely. But then
he's very injured.
Yeah, he's going to be in the hospital for
most of this movie.
Most of the movie.
It's a very bedridden movie.
It is.
Yes. It's about getting older. Everybody's like, I'm too old for this. Everybody is oh my gosh, Danny Glover in the Lethal Weapon movies in this movie. They're just too old. Or
they're like James Caan in Misery. Everyone is just in a hospital bed the entire movie. They should have wheeled Gordon and Batman together so at least they could talk while they're both in bed the whole movie.
Yeah, Gotham is like Kathy Bates. She won't let them go.
Yes.
When clearly no one should be living in this city.
Yes.
Yeah, it is time to hightail it and run at this point. So then we're introduced to Mr. Joseph Gordon-Levitt himself, Blake, and he's starting to kind of he's piecing things together throughout the whole movie. He's hearing about how young people are going to the sewers
because there's work
one of those
down
things
there.
I accept, but now that I'm talking with you who aren't as fond of the movie, that's a crack in the pavement. Well, you know, they're saying that times are tough and there's work in the sewers.
Yeah. And
for orphans who age out.
And there's pizza down there too, guys.
Yeah, this would have been the perfect time for a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover event. Open up the universe.
Cowabunga, Batman. What are you doing here?
No, but they wouldn't be referred to as the Ninja Turtles by Nolan, though, because he would have to play them off as something else.
Yes.
Call me by my middle name, Donatello.
Yeah.
The turtle who has been known by Phil for 3.5 hours.
Yeah, right. And their shells wouldn't be they're not like actually turtles, but their shells are just like
they're protective army combat material.
Yes. Yeah.
But they're still ninjas and they still have to eat pizza.
Yes.
Of course.
But that's all winky for those who get it, you know?
Yeah.
And you have to see these nunchucks only in IMAX.
Yes.
Well, come on, of course. They can only be witnessed in IMAX. You can't see them anywhere else. They're deleted from every other release.
Yeah, when is Nolan going to sell his own pair of glasses where only you can see the full movie if you wear his glasses?
It would also probably be certain headphones, and you could understand what's being said.
Oh, it's going to be a whole helmet situation. It's going to be a
Yeah.
whole eye and helmet situation you have to buy specifically from Nolan.
Yeah,
And then-
It sounds like a Cinco product.
Yeah.
he would be like the new Dr. Dre with Beats. These would be like Nolan headphones.
Yeah.
Oh, that is such a great cash in. I love. Listen, I don't like Nolan, but I would love if he just scammed everybody and sold them just old broken Beats headphones as like, this is the only way to listen to Dunkirk.
I'm sort of surprised that he hasn't done like the thing Tarantino did with Hateful Eight when it came out, where like only in IMAX can you watch like 10 extra minutes of the movie or like these extended versions, which actually would maybe give him some goodwill again. If it was like, that's the special thing. You can see this like 6-minute IMAX sequence only in IMAX, but the regular movie can be seen everywhere else.
Right.
Maybe that's an idea.
Right.
Where it's like you can make it an event if you want to, but everyone can still watch the movie.
Right.
Yeah, it's like an album with bonus tracks. If you're not a huge fan, you don't need the bonus tracks. But if you want them, there's an opportunity to get them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're back in Gotham, guys. We're in Gotham, and this is when so Blake visits Bruce because he's telling him, you're not taking care of the orphanage anymore.
And he knows he's Batman
And
because
I know you're
of
Batman.
experience,
Yeah.
pretty much.
And Gordon's in the hospital. What are we gonna do?
Yeah.
And so then Bruce goes, okay, I'm gonna try a couple things. He goes to the hospital. He is the doctor is Thomas Lennon, which was shocking, but kind of cool. And he's basically like, you're too old for this. You can't do this sort of thing. Then he puts on a little balaclava, jumps down to Gordon's area, and talks to Gordon for a little while.
Basically
in.
about like what needs to be done.
I'm in. I love that. I love all that.
But he also, during this time, finds out that he's broke because he goes to Lucius.
Yeah. No,
Right?
he's not broke yet because Bane.
No, but he's broke because he's not funding. There's no revenue coming into Wayne Enterprises.
Yes.
So he's just about broke. Finds that out from Lucius, and then Lucius shows him the bat. The bat.
Yes, which we will find out is the Bat Jet or whatever. We can't call it the Bat Jet, of course. It's just called the Bat.
No.
And the autopilot is busted.
Yes.
And they keep on talking about the autopilot throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like, so the whole thing about him fixing the autopilot is one of those things where it's like, if you don't like the ending of Interstellar, you probably don't like that he fixed the autopilot. But if you do like the ending of Interstellar, him fixing the autopilot's pretty cool. And I'm one of those people.
Well, Interstellar's my favorite of his films. I really did love
great.
Interstellar. Yeah, Interstellar I think about a lot. Even though I don't think it's a perfect movie, obviously. It's like so expansive. But I do like that movie. Of all his stuff, that's my favorite, I think.
Oh, that's cool. That movie, I mean, that is, I'm not ashamed to say it, but it is my favorite movie. I just love it so much. But I like other movies too. I'm not only Nolan. We know this by now.
Yeah.
But it is my favorite, and it is a weird movie because I will say that, and some people are just like jaw dropped. Like, how in the world is that your favorite movie?
No, there's just
And
so
I'm just
much.
like, every time I watch it, I don't have a single problem with it.
There's just so
And I
much to
love space.
interact. Yeah, there's so much to interact
Yeah.
with in that film. Yeah.
Yeah. So now let's talk about the stock market scene.
Okay.
We get a lot of great IMAX shots again. By the way, when you rented the movie, did it change aspect ratio when it was IMAX, or was it all widescreen?
It didn't change aspect that I could tell.
Oh, okay. So that might be just a Blu-ray thing. which I like. I'm an aspect ratio. I'm trying to become an aspect ratio nerd.
Okay.
So I'm
You are.
excited.
You are. You will pause the movie for a while to figure it out.
Yeah, sometimes when something seems wrong, I'll do a little research.
Yeah.
And I don't like that Sopranos is a fake widescreen when we're watching it. And same with Reno 911. That bothers me a lot. Keep it whatever it was shot in.
Because they were originally, square? Because TVs were still square at that point?
Yeah, so you're watching all these Italian gangsters walk around, and they look huge.
They're
because
all
everything's stretched.
So, like, Tony wasn't heavy enough that now Tony's sides are stretched? Jesus Christ.
You were watching it fit to screen.
Yeah, it's a little wild, and I've not found a setting that I think they, quote, remastered it into widescreen, but it still doesn't look right.
Oh, those trays of lasagna are so much bigger now.
Yeah, that's why that lady spaghetti looks so much bigger than the other episode we watched.
That's true.
Like, who in their right mind would eat that much spaghetti at a restaurant?
Well, you and I, for one.
Yeah, but like when an extra steals your attention from what's going on,
Because of their large
that's a
plate.
big plate of spaghetti.
But so now we have this whole sequence where Bane breaks into the Gotham stock market, and they're going to transfer all these funds because they have Bruce Wayne's fingerprints to basically bankrupt Bruce Wayne.
And bankroll everything they want to do.
Yeah,
probably.
and then this will allow Miranda Tate's energy project to be brought back so that they can use the nuclear bomb. Convoluted? Yes. As much as comic books always do for plots? Absolutely. I'm still on board. And they hop on motorcycles. We have these stuntmen who are attached to the back of the motorcycles. Insane.
Yeah, that's cool. It's a cool sequence.
And then we have the return of our beloved hero, Batman. We have a great cop that is saying, like, "Oh man, you're in for it tonight, kid, rookie.
Yeah.
Like, this is gonna be fun." Batman's on the scene.
Yeah.
No one's seen him in a long time, and he's just taking out these motorcyclists left and right, and it's cool.
And it ends, the whole sequence ends with him getting into the bat
Yes.
and getting away, which I think for me in the midnight showing theater experience, it was
was a
like
cheer
applause moment.
Yeah.
So just a logic question at this point. So when Dark Knight ends, the whole idea is everyone thinks Batman's a killer and he's the one who killed Harvey Dent, and that's bad. So like Batman's got to go into hiding because if we find Batman, we're going to charge him with murder. And when Batman comes back in this part of Dark Knight Rises, are the cops like, oh shit, we got to go arrest Batman for that murder? Or are they like, I forget, they're kind of like, oh cool, it's Batman, all is forgiven.
Well, the Joseph Gordon-Levitt is in the car with that other guy who's like a lieutenant or something, who's in charge.
Right.
And he's like, don't follow the motorcycle guys, follow Batman.
He's like, that guy killed Harvey
Okay,
Dent.
we're
gonna get him.
So they do acknowledge
I think it's
that.
also
Right, okay.
more sensational news-wise to this character,
Right.
if they caught Batman as opposed to these guys that just stole some money.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the cop that's kind of like, you're in for it, rookie. He seems to me, if I can read into it, he seems like someone who was around during Batman Begins and never totally bought the whole Harvey Dent story, because he seems pretty excited.
Like he's always keyed in, like Batman's doing something good.
Yeah. Or maybe he's just an adrenaline junkie.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, at this point, if it's been 8 years since the Harvey Dent killing and Batman's disappeared, you would have totally different camps, because you would have like conspiracy theorists who are like, here's actually what happened to Harvey Dent. There'd be all these Reddits and subreddits and, Batman's innocent, or Batman actually, he's the Zodiac or whatever. So like Batman would be such a weird figure that if he came out now, you would have like everyone on different camps about him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Well, the Menendez brothers are trending on TikTok, so that kind of stuff happens. Like, Gen Z loves the Menendez brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that can happen, then the Batman would be and it had only been 8 years, so it'd be a huge thing.
Yeah.
That's true, by the way. I saw the Menendez brothers are trending on TikTok. It is bizarre.
TikTok's a whole other world, and I haven't gotten myself to I will post videos of me playing guitar on there, and I will just I will put the app away though. I don't associate with it. I just do it to get my name out there as a musician. And I can't have another social media platform that I devote time to. Okay, so we have the stock market. I will admit that, and this is embarrassing, but when Batman returned, Mr. Micah got some chills. Watching it the other night, not just in the theaters. I got him now. I mean, I love this guy.
He's a great guy. Batman's a cool dude.
We love Batman. So then Batman saves Catwoman, who is trying to get the clean slate USB drive
From Daggett.
From Daggett.
Daggett.
Who, after watching the cartoons a bunch recently, I was like, now I'll remember that name because I know that's a notable name. Played by the great Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah, who is the only person in this trilogy who wears a turtleneck when I've been waiting for Bruce Wayne to wear one. Because we got it in Michael Keaton, and even Val Kilmer and George Clooney wore turtlenecks.
Yeah.
It's a Bruce Wayne thing.
I really think they missed it with Christian not wearing a turtleneck.
But at least Ben Mendelsohn gets one.
Yes.
We'll give it to him.
And he's got a pretty fun performance. You know, he thinks he's in control. And there's that great sequence where Bane walks up to him and he says, "What, do I need to pay you more? Like, why are you so upset?" And he just gently puts his hand on top of Daggett, on his shoulder. And he says, "Do you feel in control?
That's a great
You
scene.
give me money?
Yeah, that's awesome.
And this gives you power over me?" And I'm like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
And then he just
Kills him.
breaks his neck, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, he loves breaking vertebrae in this movie. He's all about the vertebrae.
Where are we at?
Well, he just saved Catwoman. And, man, it's a long movie.
It is a long movie.
So
It is a long
much.
movie.
This, it's too much. I mean, I think a big thing with this movie is you kind of could have started when Bane blows up the football field and takes over the city, or like not far before that.
Yeah.
I think that is a big problem with this movie, is like this first act is too much. It's too much. It's too much.
Yeah, it could definitely do with some trimming. And I think you could even do it while still maintaining the whole like Batman retired and he needs to get back into it. I think that could be shorter and it would still be impactful.
Yeah, I like the length. I like the complexity. I mean, I love the movie. But there is a version of the movie where Bane just takes over the city and Bruce Wayne is still like, I'm not Batman. I can't do this.
Right.
And then you know, for 40 minutes, he's like trying to figure it out. And then he trains and then he becomes Batman by 45 minutes in.
Yeah.
And he's fighting Bane.
I think it's that I get they wanted to do the comic plot from, you know, where Batman has got a broken back and he's gone for a long time. But it's just tough to do that in a movie because it's just such a long period of time of Batman really doing nothing. And then you're matching that in this movie with the long period of time where Bane has taken over the city and really nothing is happening at that point because there's no Batman there and Catwoman isn't really trying to be the hero. So you've just got these long stretches in this movie where it's just such a stasis.
Yeah.
I think the Miranda character, if you like really were trying to trim things down, you could get rid of her.
Yeah.
I understand comic book wise, like her whole twist being Ra's al Ghul's daughter, like comic book wise, like that's exciting. But with a grounded Nolan version, I think it's a little too crazy.
Yeah.
That like it's almost like a too big of a coincidence. I think that's my least favorite part of this movie is to find out that she's the daughter. And it's like, oh, you weren't really doing anything this whole movie other than just being here for this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But she does have the greatest death scene ever put to film. Do you recall this?
How does she die in this? She gets blown up by Catwoman rockets, or
no? That's Bane. She crashes her car, and it's just one of the, you know, every once in a while a movie does something, and I am put in such a stupor of amazement, if I can, because I don't know how on set, editing, and a director could all say, That's it. That's the take. We're gonna go with that.
Yeah.
Because if you recall, she's slumped in the semi truck she's in, and she says a couple things, and then she literally goes, let's see if I can do this. She goes,
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, it's the craziest scene I cannot believe, and I just have to put attention. That's a crack in the pavement.
I mean,
like, how did they think that was the take to use?
I totally agree. She did not need to be in this movie. I hate the reveal that she's actually the bigger villain, because it's like,
Yeah.
it's just such a nothing, because it's not a betrayal anyone cares about. It's like, I get her and Batman slept together once, but that's like kind of meaningless, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just a twist for the sake of a twist, and it kind of, to me, always devalued Bane, because it's like, okay,
Yeah.
why did...
That's true.
You know, Bane was... I've been watching Bane run the city for fucking 5 hours now, and now you're telling me Bane didn't matter?
And then he just gets blown up, and we don't see him anymore.
Yes!
Like, he doesn't get, like, a parting line or anything.
No.
It's like, as soon as she was revealed to be Ra's al Ghul's daughter, it was like, oh, okay, at that point, Bane was no longer a character that served a purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was, yeah, that is a big bummer.
Yeah. And it's like, I like Batman Begins fine, but nobody, and I think that's the big problem with this movie again, is that Joker needed to be the villain, because no one gives a shit about the League of Shadows. So like the reveal that she's the daughter of Ra's al Ghul, it's like there's no juice in that at all, you know? It's like League of Shadows, we're so done with that.
Yeah, the
And,
mythology of that.
The mythology of that, it isn't that important by the time we get to this third Batman movie. So to me, it just all falls flat when that's the big reveal. I don't think there needed to be a big reveal. This needed to be shorter, and at some point he beats Bane. You know?
Yeah. Having said all that,
this
is my phrase. That's my phrase for this episode. I do like the League of Shadows stuff.
No, the League of Shadows stuff is cool. I do like it.
But I think the specific Ra's daughter, I do see that, because I think I am always a little like subconsciously when she's on screen, I'm a little like, all right, let's get through this.
And
let's get back to Bane.
I think the Ra's al Ghul stuff works better for the first movie because it's like an origin Batman story. So we're getting his origin story. It's not just so much about League of Shadows, but in this, and then Joker, we don't know where he's from, and that's the best part about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then for Bane, this whole movie was all about where he's from. They were just trying to explain it the whole time, and it's like that doesn't really serve Bruce's character like the first movie did. And
That's
I think
true,
that's why
yeah.
it worked well, when in this one it is just adds to the convoluted nature of the movie.
Yeah. But speaking of, let's because we kind of just covered the middle of this movie, but Batman gets his back broken.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool fight scene. I like that set a lot. That set is really cool.
It's a cool set.
And then Bane puts him in a pit.
Mm-hmm.
The pit, the whole idea is you can't have despair without hope. So you can escape this pit, but of course...
Only one person has.
Yeah, which we find out later it's Ra's al Ghul's daughter. And so we have all this stuff. I dig all this. I like when Ra's al Ghul appears to him like in a dream vision. And maybe that's just my comic booky stuff, because it's like the character is immortal, and I like how they kind of included that with like you're saying, though, they kind of skirt the line without totally accepting that the comic books are crazy. And then he recovers from his back. We have the great chant, DC, Basa, DC.
That is cool.
And maybe some of us have that vinyl record because we love the score so much, and we love Hans, and it really started a love of Hans. That person might be me. And
that chant could be your ringtone.
It could be the ringtone. It could be the text tone. It could also be when I receive an email. But then Batman finally He tries to escape, he fails. He tries to escape again, he fails. And it's like, what is going on? How's he going to get out of here? And then the doctor says, you have a rope, and you don't fear death. You need to fear death. The whole series is about fear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's do this. They chant again. Wonderful 5-4 timing. We love it. And then he jumps across, gets out of the pit, throws the rope down to let all the prisoners free. He must have liked those folks.
But he doesn't really know what they did. That's a risky move,
They might
Batman.
deserve it.
But
I think that is cool for Bruce's character, because in Batman Begins, League of Shadows is you like lose fear. That's what you need to lose. Of course, Bruce does not make it in the League of Shadows.
Right.
But then in this movie, it is important. It's basically healthy fear. That's what you do need, and maybe that is what set Bane even apart from League of Shadows, because he was excommunicated or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like they do have this kind of fear. I like all of those themes.
totally.
And how it ties together.
We do have the nice football stadium scene.
That's a great shot. Great trailer shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that shot of him running through the explosions is really cool. It does go into that category for me of like indulgent filmmaking that I am okay with. But I know it's like, how would this guy not turn around? What is going on? And he's just like, touchdown, baby.
Mm-hmm.
And then he looks back and he's like, oh man, all my friends just died. But you know, we need some indulgent filmmaking. You know, it's a superhero movie at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think set pieces like that, I mean, it is just cool. It's a cool idea, and it was done really well. So you can kind of look past the idea of, he would be looking over his shoulder. But you're actually not.
Yeah,
you're not supposed to look back, because you look back, you get tackled.
True. That's true.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
I don't know how he didn't hear
you know
explosions, but who knows?
Right. I don't like being a stickler on little plot points like that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's a fun way to watch movies. But it's just always something where every time I watch it, I'm like, it's a little weird.
Yeah.
But I dig it. As you can tell.
Yeah.
I still dig the movie. Warts and all.
So those cracks are not cracks in the pavement, though.
They're cracks in the football field.
But not the pavement.
No.
Okay.
No, it's grassy cracks.
Good. Which you're okay
That's
with.
a phrase I never want to say again. But so Bane, the bomb's gonna go off. Is that okay to just skip to bomb's gonna go off?
Yeah.
He's releasing prisoners from Blackgate, and he reveals to everyone that Harvey Dent, the whole thing was a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm taking the city and giving it back to you, the people. And does his great thing where his eyes kind of cross, all about it. And now they're patrolling the city. It's in martial law. They're going to blow up this bomb. And we have a great cameo from Scarecrow again, as he is condemning people to either death or exile, or in Gary Oldman's case, death by exile.
Mm-hmm.
And all this, the city's in shambles. The upper class has been thrown out. And this is where it gets really confusing on what we should be, like what he is trying to say. And I think we are coming to the conclusion that maybe he's not trying to make any statement.
That's possible.
I think he just didn't. I think he wanted to use the hot imagery at the time, which was all of the Occupy Wall Street stuff. And he just then didn't have a real plan on how to turn that into a narrative that had a point to it.
Yeah.
But he was like, oh, I like the way this looks, all these young people yelling. So I'm going to throw that in here. But then he didn't bother. He's like, what are they yelling about? I don't know. Who knows? No one knows.
Yeah. I kind of feel like it's like, what did the people learn after this moment in Gotham history? I don't know. But I feel like with Joker,
true.
like what they did learn something about themselves through that villain.
That's a good point. So Batman comes back. We're getting into the final battle. I know I'm glossing over a lot, but
That's okay.
we've talked about a lot of this movie. So we're getting to the final battle. We have a crowd of police attacking the prisoners, which hits a lot differently watching it these days. For me personally, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, we're watching that happen right now. and I'm supposed to root for the police in this movie. That's weird.
Yeah. He's so pro the police in this, because like they get such a glory shot in this third act of like, we're gonna break out of this sewer and we're gonna knock some poor people heads, and it's like, I don't know, stay in the sewer maybe.
Try and find those turtles.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and so that's interesting. I mean, it is cool because he really gets a crowd of people. It's really that stuff happening. It's real.
Not like movie magic wise.
Yeah, you and I, we like CGI just as much as the next guy, but this is a very tactile movie for the most part, and I love that about it. And were you about to say something?
No, I agree. It's like this and like the first time I saw it, all of this worked for me because I'm like, I'm but a man. I can't resist when Batman comes back and he puts the bat symbol up on fire and everyone responds to it. And that bit, I mean, I guess you're getting to that now, but like the huge brawl, in the, whatever that is, the courthouse steps, the big riot between the bad guys and the good guys and Batman fighting Bane, like it is all really cool.
Yeah.
I think that is that is the ending to a good 2-hour version of this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it continues past 2 hours. Well past. The bomb is just going to go off anyway. Gordon
is finally used by putting the whatever that thing is so that she can't blow up the bomb, I guess.
But it's not going to matter anyway because it's still going to blow up in 15 minutes. And then Batman gets it, flies it over the harbor. We see one last shot of Batman. The bomb goes off. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is looking off, hopeless. The children in the buses are hopeless.
No, they're cheering.
Oh, they are cheering, yes.
He's feeling that way because he knows. And
so people are feeling torn. Then we see this montage of a statue being built. Of Batman. We have Michael Caine crying and saying,
he's to his parents' graves that I failed you.
I failed you. Yeah. Great. Love his acting. Get out of here. It's so good. And then Blake, we find out his middle name is Robin. He starts looking up like he gets all this equipment and he starts heading somewhere. And as he's doing that, Michael Caine goes to this restaurant and he sits down and he looks and I do like he looks and you're thinking, oh, he's going to see him right there. And then he just keeps looking and you're like, oh, okay, maybe that's not going to happen the first time. And then Joseph Gordon-Levitt walks into the Batcave. He's going to take up the mantle.
Yep.
And then Michael Caine once again looks and he sees Mr. Bruce Wayne with Selena Kyle. And they both look at each other knowingly. They don't speak. And then the platform rises, and it says The Dark Knight Rises. And then all of my friends at the time said, I can't wait for them to make a sequel with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And I said, no, that wasn't set up for a sequel. That's the end.
I thought they were setting up for a sequel.
You did?
Yeah, not even that I was like desperate for it. It's like I've got to see Robin, but I think it definitely gave off that impression of like, he's going to be doing some movies.
Was there talk?
Really?
Was there talk of that?
I don't think there was ever talk of it.
No.
I think like that died out pretty quickly, but the movie definitely gives the impression we're gonna do some stuff because like obviously they're gonna want to keep doing. The studio would have done it for sure.
Yeah, the studio for sure. I knew, like, especially when rewatching them up to watching the movie and stuff, they stress so much that it is not about who is in the costume, it's about what it represents. And it's such a theme in the series that the bat is a symbol and it's not a person. And so when it rises up, I just go, he's just the next part of this.
Yeah.
And what's kind of fun about this trilogy is that it's a fun way to adapt comic books because it does have an ending. because comic books don't ever end.
Yeah.
And like something like the MCU, I love it for the most part, but I mean, we will die before that is over. We'll never see the ending of the MCU. The same with now they're doing Star Wars. It's like we're never going to see the end of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And that's like a little bit of a bummer that the story can't ever end. But it's the nature of comic books. So it's cool that they decided this is an ending. And then someone else can do a really, really mopey, sad Batman who has no characteristics.
Well,
he can just be sad all the time.
What's like a...
Are you looking forward to that one? Are you guys looking forward to the Matt Reeves?
That I'm looking
Batman?
forward to. I was referring to Zack Snyder.
The Ben Affleck.
Yes,
that's true.
Which,
okay.
The Matt Reeves one, I mean, I love Robert Pattinson. I'll pretty much watch anything he's in. Yeah. And I love Paul Dano. I'll pretty much watch anything he's into. So it has all the right ingredients for me. But when they announced the movie, I was like, give it a break, please.
And I will say, although I think listeners will be like, seriously, again? I am excited about that movie. It looks cool. But I don't know that I necessarily need to see another gritty Batman movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
dark
thing.
in the My Chemical Romance song in the trailer. It's like, I think it was a My Chemical Romance song, right? In the trailer?
I don't remember.
Not that I
Or
remember.
was it Nine Inch Nails? It was some dark... It was some very dark rock song.
I think it was 9 Inch Nails. I think they did Hurt.
If they put My Chemical Romance in the trailer, I would be excited like way more than I am.
I think that was the
and
joke.
I don't think it was.
People were saying that it was like a My Chemical Romance
so
Batman.
emo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which makes sense.
Yeah, it's true because it's like this is now 3 Batman that are in the same vein.
Yeah.
And we could have went for like, the at some point not go full Batman and Robin or Batman Forever, but like a little bit more, I guess not to say Marvel-y, but like, a little more of a Marvel-y superhero
like just
version of Batman.
Try to show me that you're having a little bit of fun while you're doing it. I hope that that's conveyed even a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think like this series, it's funny how many movies are influenced by the Dark Knight trilogy and they want to be dark and gritty, but people forget that these movies have a lot of humor in them. And Bruce Wayne's kind of a goofball, and they are fun movies, I think. But everyone's like, I only learned the lesson that it's dark. That's like the only lesson filmmakers learn from this for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, I think the problem it comes down to is he used the word dark in 2 out of the 3 titles.
Yeah.
And you just had a lot of filmmakers who really only saw the titles.
Yeah.
And that's what they took from it. I think if he had called this 3rd movie something else that didn't have the word dark in it, we may not have had Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Who knows? We're going to be covering that very soon.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
It'll be an interesting rewatch.
So do you guys overall think this is this one of the better like cinematic universes that you've covered? Is this your favorite one? The Nolan Batman trilogy?
This is definitely one of my faves. We've covered quite a few that I've really liked all the way though. Mad Max is up there for one of my favorites we've covered. I love all the Unbreakable movies. It's too wild and crazy to write off.
It's easier to like a series when there's less entries.
Yeah.
I get less bored. So to only have 3. Also, like I've said, this is like specifically this series has a special place in my heart, whether or not like how it's aged. But because there's only 3, it's like, cool, we just got to start a new one next week.
Yeah. And Toy Story, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're only at the 2-year mark. We got a lot to cover. We haven't even tackled Star Wars yet.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah. But we did Harry Potter's another real good one, but except for Fantastic Beasts. You have to put a big asterisk next to that.
I mean, that's its own thing. I think it's the way you're splitting up the Batman movies. Yeah.
That's how I choose to see it, for sure.
Yeah, I think, Clayton and I are definitely not as big on this trilogy as you guys are. I think that if this movie had stuck the landing for me, it would have been a lot higher up there.
Sure.
But I don't think I put it up there as one of, my great trilogies. Because like I like the first one fine. I think the second one is 2/3 of an amazing movie, and then I don't love the ending. And then this one, if they needed to cut an hour out of this goddamn movie, it's just too long. It's too long. It's too long. It's too much of people in bed. This movie needed to have less bed. There's too many bed sores in Dark Knight Rises.
What about you, Clayton?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. I'm not big on these three movies in general. This one as well. Like, it's hard because I mean, I also think like the age difference. Not to age myself, but when I was excited for the first Batman so much because I remember just going to see that movie several times in the theater, and by the time we got to Batman Begins and then Dark Knight and then this one, I was kind of, as much as adults love superhero movies, I was kind of a little aged out of them. Sure. And so I was just not as excited, but I mean, I did like, I like Nolan from Memento and all his previous films, and then like I loved Inception, so I wished I was more excited about his Batman, but to me, Batman was a way for him to be able to make his original movies, so I kind of tolerated them in a way. Because if we didn't, if he didn't do Batman, he couldn't do Interstellar. So the fact that these movies exist means that other stuff that I like exists, and that's enough for me.
Yeah, that's a great take.
Yeah.
That's the diversity of movies. You love some, you hate some, and everybody thinks differently about it. We love that.
Yeah.
Well, do you have anything left that you want to say about The Dark Knight Rises?
I mean, I gotta say that, listen, Clayton and I are BO boys. We're box office above all. So it almost doesn't matter, even though we have been talking for, at this point now, about 7 hours about the quality of this movie. The quality doesn't matter because in the end, these were billion-dollar babies. First one did okay at the box office. Second one is an all-time hit. Third one also was a huge hit. So all I got to say about these movies is they killed it at the BO, so they are great films.
The only metric that matters when it comes to a film is how much it makes at the box office. So this is a success.
Yeah.
I love it. And that's a perfect plug for the BO Boys. Listen to the podcast. I listen to it every week, and I get to know all the breakdowns of the weekend. And it is so fascinating right now because the box office is on its head, but things are opening back up. So it's so exciting every week when it's like, whoa, this number's bigger than last time. Whoa, this is recovering. I don't think all the theaters in the world are going to close. This could happen again. We could all go to movies again.
Yeah, BO is back, and I think for all of the people listening to this podcast who now are, of course, going to subscribe to the BO Boys.
Of course.
We did the BO Boys. We started it before the pandemic happened, and we did not miss a week, even though for the majority of 2020 into 2021, there was no theatrical business. So our podcast, Clayton and I always say it, is one of the great living documents of the history of what we all went through.
Yeah.
Because we did not miss a week. We covered the BO even when basically the number one movie in the country was like some little movie that someone released in one theater in their town, and by default, since that made $800, that was the number one movie. We covered all that. So you listen to all the new episodes week by week, but also do yourself a favor and listen to the last year.
Seriously.
And because what everyone wants to do is relive 2020. So relive it through the BO Boys archive. But then also now we're covering movies have opened up, box office is back, Godzilla vs. Kong, Fast 9's coming. It's huge.
Well, listeners, as you know, on Patreon this month, we're covering Batman 1966. So sign up for our Patreon at patreon.com/MICAHMCCAW. And also, next week we start our little trilogy break, a breath of fresh air before the DCEU. We're covering Richard Linklater's The Before trilogy. So get on it, folks. And I promise...
favorite. Sorry, I interrupt you. My favorite trilogy you guys just mentioned. That is my favorite trilogy.
Oh, awesome.
There you go. I wanted to sandwich it. We thought of this like a week ago. I wanted to sandwich it in between two big franchises because I pretty much can guarantee you, listener, that you will love it. You might go, that doesn't sound interesting, a romance series?
Well, with the
You're
DCEU,
wrong.
we're about to cover things that feel dark and hopeless and without heart. So what better than to cover a series before that that's full of heart and love?
It'll tide us over till we get to Shazam.
Sure.
So let's go. But I think the first one is Sunrise, right?
Before Sunrise, yeah.
Before Sunrise. So get on it, folks. Thanks for listening. Rate, review, subscribe. Check out BO Boys. And what's a good sign off? I'm Gotham's Reckoning. See you later.
You didn't say that with much confidence, though.
He did. No.
I am Gotham's Reckoning.
I guess.
Micah Jordan. I'm Gotham's Reckoning. You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it. I was born in it. I was born in it.